And if you find yourself as one of those folks that are angry about all the stuff that is going on and all the decline that we're seeing in our culture, whether it's the attack on our families or the corruption of our currency, I'm asking you, I'm calling on you, on that third person in this conversation. Stay engaged. Don't let go now, because there's so much at stake, and we're surrounded by more folks that are going to need fighters who have been in the fight for years now, that can, when those folks come in and say, hey, what can I do? How can I help? That they're there to help them along.
The founding fathers of the United States put language into the United States Constitution regarding silver and gold. Now, we have a growing number of states in the United States that are forwarding legal tender legislation. But behind each piece of that legislation is an elected official, a driving force, who's looking out for the benefit of his or her constituencies. In Missouri, we have Senator Bill Igel, and today we're fortunate to have him here in the basement. He's going to tell us about this legal tender legislation. Bill, welcome to Ron's Basement.
Hey, Ron, thanks for having me. And hello to all the basement dwellers out there.
That's right. You know, that was my next line, Bill, that it's me and you, but there's this third person with us who's most important, right? The citizen, the voter. And why is legal tender legislation so important for the people that are joining us today?
Yeah, great question, and it's a great place to start. So I think maybe a lot of your audience has watched the decline in the American fiat dollar with a lot of skepticism and a lot of hesitation. There are moves now by governments, not just American state level governments or federal governments, but international governments, to push us towards a digital currency, which is effectively a mechanism of control that governments will use to take over control of private assets. So the best thing that I think that we can do to push back on that and protect our citizens is to make sure there's an alternative that can be used as legal tender that you can hold in your hand, no matter what they do with all these digital currencies or what damage they do to the fiat US dollar currency. There's always going to be something physical. And for me, and for the founders that wrote this into the US Constitution, that's gold and silver. So my legislation, which was Senate Bill 100 last year, it's now Senate Bill 735, would make gold and tender legal, or would make gold and silver legal tender in the state of Missouri. So it's a great place to start. Very few states have done this. I think only a couple states have actually passed something like this. So Missouri is really on the leading edge here.
Okay. And you touched on this, but and obviously you operate within the political sphere. On a national basis, do you feel like we have a chance of ever getting out of this $33.6 trillion debt that we've built up? Is that part of the concern behind this, that there seems to be on a national basis kind of reckless spending that's going on, ever-growing debts and deficits? Is that part of the motivation behind this as well?
Yeah, yes. I think that when you use the term reckless spending, I think that's putting it nicely, right? That's putting it mildly. It's out of control, devastating spending that's just wasteful spending. And it's not just happening in Washington, D.C. Remember, anything that's appropriated in Washington, D.C. is also getting appropriated down at the state level. And, one of my big frustrations in Missouri government is that we have a lot of so-called fiscal conservatives in Jefferson City that are saying they're for smaller, more limited government in campaign season, and then they just spend like drunken sailors once the session starts and once they're in office. So the result of that so far has been to see increases in inflation like we've not seen since the 1970s. So folks are feeling the effects of this every single day. And as the dollar continues to weaken in terms of its purchase power, we want to make sure that there's always going to be a physical alternative for folks to be able to store wealth in. And again, that's where gold and silver comes in. And I'm not confident, Ron. I'm not confident that any of the politicians, no matter who they are in Washington, D.C., are ever going to come to the realization that all this spending truly needs to come to an end. So this is a great way that I think that we can protect the citizens of Missouri in the short term from just the out of control fiscal policies of our government.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, Bill. It feels like we are, and I'm 53 years old. It just feels like in the last 20 years, the spending has gotten out of control, and nobody seems to care, or very few people seem to care. I sense that you care, that I care, and I imagine our viewer here, because they are gold and silver enthusiasts, that they care as well. So this legislation kind of facilitates for Missouri residents, but again, it's going on in a number of other states as well. But it facilitates the ability to help protect these citizens and protect their right to use gold and silver as legal tender. Are there any other details that you can share with us in terms of what it might provide for the citizens? If you're looking to buy gold, silver, or platinum, do yourself a favor and check out Pimbex, the online precious metals bullion dealer and sponsor of Ron's Basement. I was a happy customer before they offered to support the channel. You'll find they have the best prices, quality, and service. I think Pimbex is best, and you will too. And be sure to tell them that you're from Ron's Basement.
So it also eliminates income tax, capital gains taxes on the transfer and sale of gold and silver. So, when you exchange your currency from one currency to another, so if you transfer dollars into euros or back and forth, you don't pay income taxes on that. Now, gold and silver is also a form of currency under this bill, so it'll exempt sales of precious metals, the gold and silver, from being subject to the income tax. So you can transfer your assets into precious metals and back out again as you see fit without having to pay the government a charge for that. So there's a little bit of a tax cut in there. It also and by the way, even though it allows for gold and silver to be legal tender in the state, it doesn't force anyone to accept gold and silver. It doesn't force anyone to have to use gold and silver. It does require that the state government is going to have to accept gold and silver for the receipt of its tax obligations. So, but I've never been hesitant about putting restrictions on government. But as far as the people of this state, it's an option. It's a tool that they can use in order to make sure that their assets are set up the way that they want them to, and it provides a possible hedge against all this government interference and the government spending that we see going on.
Yeah, interesting. And I have a degree in accounting, so I understand how taxes and capital gains work. And the example I would use is it would be like if my wife handed me $100 worth of quarters, and I went to the bank and said, I want to exchange this for a $100 bill, that they would say, well, we have to charge you a tax for doing that, right? That we wouldn't stand for that. But silver and gold are, well, as it says in the Constitution, real money. And the fact that we convert it from fiat paper back and forth, there really should not be a tax associated with that. So it's good to hear that you're providing for that. It feels like there's grassroots support. I think you and I have a common friend, Pat Holland with the Missouri Freedom Initiative, who works tirelessly on this and other legislation. How can people help support the legislation from your perspective, and how can they help support you as well?
So first, let's talk about the legislation. So last year, we passed a similar bill. It was one of the first bills that actually passed out of the Missouri Senate last year. That went over to the House and basically died over in the House of Representatives. The Speaker of the House, Dean Plocher, was opposed to this legislation, refused to support this legislation. And then when he had an opportunity, even at the end of session, after sitting on it the entire session, he finally had an opportunity to move it forward, and he chose not to. So, this is a guy, Dean Plocher, he wants to become your lieutenant governor in the state of Missouri. So I think that folks should be pretty bold about letting him know that if he wants to be in tune with actual Republican voters and folks that are interested in protecting their rights, this is a pretty easy thing that he can do that has overwhelming support in both chambers and get this done. So I would encourage folks to call Dean Plocher's office. That's where the breakdown was last year, and ensure that he knows that if he continues to defy the will of the grassroots and the people of this state, that there's going to be political consequences for that. So I think that's the number one thing. As far as supporting me, Ron, as you said, people have been supporting me tremendously, not just for this legislation, but in my overall efforts to become the next governor of the state of Missouri. For folks that are interested in that, I would encourage them to check out my website, BillIgel.com. We're doing a lot of good, or trying to do a lot of good things with the swamp that we have in Jefferson City, not just past protections on gold and silver to become legal tender. We're working on getting rid of personal property tax in this state. We're working on protecting our Missouri farmland from being bought out by foreign entities. But as I mentioned, there's a big swamp there. So this requires a tremendous amount of grassroots engagement, which I've been very fortunate to get the support of thus far. So the session, which is starting here in a few weeks, is a good time for folks to start reaching out to their legislators and talking to them about issues like gold and silver, or if you're interested in the primary issue of who's going to be the next governor, which we could probably spend a lot of time on that, go to BillIgel.com. Check it out.
Okay. Yeah, I sense that you are supporting initiatives, the three that you mentioned, legal tender, foreign ownership of land, and reduction or elimination of certain personal property, that you are working on initiatives that are for the people. And that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I always say this is not a political show, but my sense is that for those types of initiatives to really gain the traction that they really need, that grassroots support is imperative. Is that an accurate statement?
First Mining Gold is a development company advancing two of the largest gold projects in Canada. Springpole in Ontario and Duparquet, located in Quebec, each already has 5 million ounces of gold reserves, but exploration initiatives are underway at both projects to find even more gold. First Mining is well-financed, has zero debt, and owns an interest in 4 additional Canadian gold development projects.
100%. In fact, just 2 of those items, the gold and silver bill and the elimination of the personal property tax, what makes those 2 bills unique from the hundreds of other bills that just got filed this week in Jefferson City is that there isn't a single registered lobbyist that is fighting for those 2 bills. Not one. So the hallways of power in Jefferson City don't really have a whole lot of interest in these 2 particular bills. They don't really care if gold and silver becomes legal tender. They don't care if we get rid of personal property tax or not. On the other hand, when you talk to everyday people all over this state, those are 2 of the items that I hear about the most: getting rid of personal property tax and making gold and silver legal tender. So because we're going to have to beat the entire swamp here, we've got to have a ton of grassroots engagement. And believe me, it makes a difference when you have a senator that may not be passionate about an issue like gold and silver, but suddenly he gets 50, or he or she gets 50 phone calls from his district saying, hey, this is a priority for us. We'd like you to support this bill. That can have a huge impact. And if we do that, then I feel like we're going to be able to beat the swamp, not just in an electoral sense for the gubernatorial primary next August, but in the upcoming legislative session. So don't underestimate the influence of folks reaching out by phone, in person, to their legislators and encouraging them to do the right thing.
Yeah, I heard a statistic the other day. I was talking with a gentleman named Daniel Diaz. He's with the Citizens for Sound Money. They're doing legal tender legislation work across the country. And he pointed out a statistic that, a phone call is the equivalent of like 50 votes. A handwritten letter is the equivalent of 200 votes. And if you can go see your representative or state senator in person, that's worth like 1,000 votes. So yeah, I mean, people need to realize that they can make a difference. And and I think it's important what you pointed out as well, that these initiatives that are for the people are not going to be supported by the big lobbyists. The big lobbyists are generally going to be supported by larger, big business type interest, and that if we want what's for the people, we need to have the support of the people. I think it's safe for me to say, Bill, that you absolutely have my support. And I can't speak for the third person, that voter who's with us right now, but I'm real confident when I say that you have their support as well. A lot of them are in Missouri, and a lot of them are out throughout the country. And I know you're running for governor for Missouri, but hey, you never know. Maybe someday we'll have Bill Igel for president. So it's
whoa. I think I just got another gray hair when you said that.
and you got
Ron,
enough on your.
I certainly appreciate that. And, we're seeing a level of engagement right now from the Republican electorate that we've not seen before. And the reason that we have so many people getting involved, whether it's an issue like gold and silver, whether it's an issue like personal property taxes, government's never been as big as it is right now. And it's never been as destructive as it is right now, not just in the dollars that it's spending down in Washington, D.C. and in Jefferson City, but look at what happened in the COVID environment. I don't think that you can point to a more tyrannical moment that we've had in America than the COVID environment in a long, long time. So the folks are coming out, and many times they've never before been engaged in the political discussion, but they recognize that things are deteriorating in this country and in this state, and they're frustrated, they're angry. And if you find yourself as one of those folks that are angry about all the stuff that is going on and all the decline that we're seeing in our culture, whether it's the attack on our families or the corruption of our currency, I'm asking you, I'm calling on you, on that third person in this conversation. Stay engaged. Don't let go now, because there's so much at stake, and we're surrounded by more folks that are going to need fighters who have been in the fight for years now, that can, when those folks come in and say, hey, what can I do? How can I help? That they're there to help them along. I remember when I first got involved in politics, this was in 2015, 2016, before I ran for office. I was upset and angry because of Obamacare. Obamacare doubled our premiums. It reduced our benefits. It was devastating for small businesses. I was running a small business at the time. And I didn't know where to go or who to talk to. So I started reaching out to groups, and I found the first thing I found is that I wasn't alone. And if you're alone and frustrated with politicians in Jefferson City, I get that, but you're not alone. There's people all over this state that are as angry as you are and are starting to change the results, the expected results in our Republican primaries from what the swamp wants down in Jefferson City. So don't let go, don't give up. And you're not alone. We're building coalitions that are going to take not just this state back, but this country back, and folks are getting on board.
Wow. Thank you very much, Bill, for sharing your information, your time. It's going to be exciting to watch the gold and silver legal tender legislation work its way through the legislative process. But I think I can speak on behalf of a lot of our viewers. It'll be exciting to watch you run for Missouri governor, and who knows where we could go from there. But you strike me as a quality, honest person who really is looking out for the best interest of the average person. And like you said, a lot of the average people in Missouri, but not just in Missouri, but around the country, I think are angry, frustrated, and I think in some ways a little sad too about what is going on, whether we're talking about the feels like to me, and I'm the one saying this, the plundering of the country with this out of control spending. And people want to, want change, and they also want a way to protect themselves, which for us here in Missouri, this legal tender legislation could provide. So we'll look forward to watching you. And I know you said earlier how people can find out more about you. But again, on behalf of everyone, thank you. And hopefully we'll see you again here in the basement soon.
Awesome. Well, Ron, thanks so much for having me. I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll talk real soon.